I'm Jennifer Jones, founder of Green Ivy Schools, and that includes Pine Street School, where we're all gathered tonight. A lot of you know that I have a long tenure in education, but I'm also the mother of a very rambunctious 9-year-old boy. So tonight, I'm speaking to you both as educator and fellow parent. When I was preparing for this, I got excited about launching season 2. Last season was fantastic. In this season, we're going to feature a number of specialists in different areas of technology, the big areas that are going to make the most impact in the next few years. My job tonight is to be your guide through some of the big picture forces so that you can feel prepared for those deep dive conversations. So tonight will be a very high-level conversation about major technological forces that are going to define your child's life experiences and their opportunities. When I was getting ready for this, I had to make assumptions about who you are as parents, and I'd like to share those with you. I think that when we make parenting decisions, most of us look back, right? I think that from the minute we know we're having a baby, we probably start thinking about what our childhoods were like. I think that we apply this to just about everything. When we decide what we're going to feed our children, when we decide how to treat a fever, when we look at their friendships and measure the value of those, what we do around the dinner table, and I think especially school. When we look at school, I think we usually reference the things that we know, right? Did we have recess? Was there a cafeteria? Did they have textbooks? Was there a desk facing forward? It's funny, when I see parents touring our schools, they're always referencing things from the past. Parenting is very nostalgic. It's very reflective. I think we all worry about this sometimes dark world of technology with our children. It's a tech-saturated world. I think that often we worry about them playing too many video games, YouTube, surfing the internet unsupervised, right? Things like that. But I think there's a darker side to it. We worry about them finding inappropriate content online, which is always possible and very scary. And of course, then there's the issue of predators. They're always vulnerable to predators. So tech can be pretty scary for a parent. Feels sometimes like you can't really control it, right? I think that all of us feel judged by each other. I think it starts with our parents. Anyone here have to listen to their parents tell them how to parent? Yes? And what's funny is they're referencing a childhood from 2 generations ago, right? And applying that to what we think is a very different world. And then, of course, if you're like me, you've been subjected or you've been offered free, unsolicited feedback from fellow parents in the playground, in the subway, everywhere, right? I think that this need to give each other little warnings about technology or other parenting issues is really just the manifestation of our shared fear. You know, we're all fearful. And so we warn each other as a way to kind of express that fear. But there's another side, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. There's this wonderfully positive, proactive, constructive side to parenting that I think is the most fun part. It's the part where you get to position yourselves as guides and advocates, where you get to think about how to prepare your children for what they're going to experience, where you get to forecast what might be, what might they do for a living. So the proactive forecasting part of parenting, I think, is a really exciting piece that maybe gets lost sometimes in a very scary world, where we tend to be driven by fear. However, we face a challenge. That is that our parents had it very differently than we do. And there are a number of changes, I think, that have occurred between the time when our parents were parents and today that I think make it difficult for us to have the same luxuries that they had. Our parents could fairly easily look into the future and see what our lives would be like, because for most of us here, the world didn't look that much different, right? There might have been some new technologies, that our parents can't seem to understand how to use. But aside from that, the big institutions of life look the same. School looks pretty much the same as it did from then to now, unfortunately. I think the workplace is changing, but when we entered it, most of us, it looked pretty much the same as it did for our parents. Financial institutions, things like that, I think it all pretty much looked the same. So our parents could sit back and relax and see the horizon for us. But I don't think we have that same luxury. I think the pace of change is exponentially faster now than it was in our parents' parenting life. And I think that makes the horizon a moving target for us. You're trying to see where your child will be. What will they go to college and what will that look like? The pace of change makes it hard to predict because college is transforming right underneath us. More specifically, these major institutions are all shifting daily right now, driven mostly by technological innovation. All of these are transforming. College won't look anything like you and I experienced. When our children are adults, it will have been completely transformed. The workplace, I think we're already seeing it, right? I mean, WeWork is the way to work, right? Increasingly. Probably the number of people you know who WeWork now has increased dramatically just in the last 2 years, I would be willing to bet. And that will continue to happen. You go to any conference that focuses on the future of work, it's completely about that model and even more radical models that bring in technologies like virtual reality. Financial systems, anybody following cryptocurrencies right now? Yeah? Are you as mystified as I am about cryptocurrencies? Don't you feel like you should be investing in it right now, but you have no idea how to do that? Yeah. So I think it's pretty clear that cryptocurrency, or its foundation, which is blockchain, is going to disrupt all financial institutions. Your children will not use the same currency that you're using, right? Think about that for a second. Their currency will be different. It will be based on a completely different system and ideology than what you have experienced. Right? So you see what I mean? It's tough for us to forecast the way our parents did. Everything our children do will be tech-driven, everything. Every opportunity, I don't care if they work with their hands, if they're a dancer, it doesn't matter. They will interface with technology. They will probably need to know technology at a level that we didn't need to know. Probably half of us are in careers right now where our most sophisticated tech skill is using a computer, right? That won't be the case for your kids. They will need to have more sophisticated tech skills. I know this feels a little like it doesn't sit here, but it does. And I know this is a big topic, and I know it's not fun to talk about. Climate change is overwhelming. I don't know about you, but every time I hear something about it on the news, I feel this weight on me. And I think about my son, and I think about the world that he's going to inherit. I wonder if it will be here. I wonder if I should invest in more boats. You know, I think about these things. I think, should we move to higher ground so that he can have success in his adult life? You know, climate change is a big deal. And the reason it's here is because our parents didn't confront that level of intensity when they were thinking about our future. They didn't have to wonder whether or not the area we live in will be too hot to live in, whether or not it will still be above water, right? And I know that we like to push this down, and I know it's not fun to talk about, but as parents, it's kind of our job to be brave and to look at the future in a sober way, because our kids depend on us to do that. And they are going to inherit unbelievably challenging issues that they will have to address somehow. So if we're not already talking to them about it, we've got to start, because we're going to hand it over, right? So you see what I mean? Our parents had it so good, right? They had it so easy. They didn't just basically rinse and repeat. to get us where we needed to go, more or less. Not that we listened to them. I'm not assuming any of you listened to your parents. But they could forecast fairly well. But you can't. You have different challenges. And so tonight, I want to walk you through what I believe and many experts in the field believe to be the big forces that are going to transform your child's experience so that you feel better prepared and positioned to do that forecasting, that it feels more familiar. I'm going to use this word a lot because even though I know most of the things I listed have dark implications and it's scary and it's heavy and it's intense, we're also kind of in a golden era right now. Because with all of these incredibly intense and serious challenges, there are so many opportunities. And technology has never been more pliable and accessible. It's really just an extraordinary moment for you to get your head around what the future holds, and then to empower your children to leverage technology to take their opportunity. So this is a statement by one of my favorite authors, Kevin Kelly, who wrote The Inevitable, book I highly recommend. It is a fantastic map to the future for anyone, particularly parents, beautifully written. See his optimism? He's wildly optimistic about the future. And by the way, most leaders of tech fields are also very optimistic about the future. So if you feel like tech is always associated with something dark and dismal and dystopian, it's mostly the media that's done that to us, right? Do I think that we're all great people and that we'll only use technology for good? Of course I don't think that. No one thinks that. But I think your kids can. And I think you can empower them to do that. And so does Kevin Kelly. I love this statement. Let's start with cognifying. Kelly calls it cognifying, it's his wording. He means artificial intelligence. This gives you a little sense for how pervasive AI is going to be. But this just scratches the surface. It gets even weirder, right? This is how the business world looks at AI. It's so hot right now. If anybody's following it, every day there's a new business that's built on the idea of taking an existing thing and inserting AI into it to make it smarter. Clothes, machines, chairs, medicine, anything. These are just a few examples to illustrate how the texture of your child's life will be different from yours. Where you are primarily accustomed to interacting with things, machines, people, AI is going to change that for your child. In a lot of instances where there might have been a thing there, there will be AI there. I love this example, devices will be flat. The camera's a great example of that, right? Cameras are expected to become flat screens. Just a flat screen. Why? Because AI can replace the function of the lenses and everything else that used to make a camera a camera. Just think about that for a minute. Suddenly, the camera's invisible, but it works even better than it used to, right? Okay, are you ready for this? This is the mind-blowing part of AI. This is the part I most want you to begin to absorb. AI is not Alexa, okay? If you're still debating whether or not you should have Alexa, I think that's really funny, okay? No offense. AI for your children is going to be everything any human being has ever known or done in their back pocket. Everything. Any human being, from the beginning of human beings. Everything that's been written, everything that's been drawn, everything that's been composed, everything that's been recorded, points of view, political statements, all video, everything will fit in their back pocket or smaller. That's the tool your child will have at their disposal. And if you want it to get weirder, it does get weirder. Because as we speak, that catalog of knowledge is being contributed to by machines who are learning from us and in some senses teaching us. And, would you like more? A lot of specialists in this area believe that soon we will begin to capture the intelligences of other things, like bacteria, like flowers, like turtles, whales, oxygen. The intelligence of all things combined in one place, available to everyone in the world. Because by the time your children are adults, technology will be so small and so cheap, anyone will be able to have it and contribute to it. Ray Kurzweil is the director of engineering at Google, which basically means he runs AI for Google. Machine learning, that kind of thing. Highly respected inventor. Really cool guy. You should check him out. He's got a daughter who's now his partner in crime. He's writing a children's book about AI. It's amazing. Kurzweil is responsible for a theory called Singularity, which can be scary. Because the theory is that by a certain date in the future, machines will have mastered the wisdom of all human beings ever who have existed. They will pass us, in other words. Kurzweil's original prediction was 2050. He just recently modified that to 2030. 2030 is tomorrow, basically, in parent time, right? And look at what he's saying. He's saying that this artificial intelligence that I just described, it's not going to be in their back pockets. They're going to be in it. They're going to be connected to it, physically connected to it, contributing to it seamlessly all the time. That's your child's future. It's not science fiction. It is very real, legitimate. It's going to happen. But look at what specialists in AI say. This is something they bring up a lot. They're all talking about the chess and Go. Anyone familiar with Go, the game Go? And there was an AI that not too long ago beat the world's Go master. Go is a very sophisticated game, very hard to play. But look at this. This is what I mean. There is an optimistic side to AI that you don't see in these dark science fiction tales that we get fed all the time. There's another side to it completely, and I'm speaking to you parent to parent. We owe it to our children to help them understand AI and how they can leverage that to be better at whatever it is that they want to do, to be better at solving societal problems, to make a contribution. This is a huge opportunity. It is scary because it's like nothing we've ever known. Your children are not going to be scared by this, by the way, because they'll be raised in it. AI will be like oxygen for them. They won't think twice about it. But it will scare the heck out of you. It's going to take your breath away as you see them engage this. Okay, on to the next one. Screening. Don't get distracted by the word screen. I know your parents, I know the first thing you're thinking is screen time, right? How many people instantly went like, oh, screen time, how much is enough or too much? I don't know. Remember when our parents didn't want us to sit in front of the television too close? Anybody old enough to have somebody pull them back from the screen? Isn't that funny now when you think about it? If only they could have forecasted and seen how much time we would sit in front of our computers and how close we would be, right? Times have changed. Okay, this is what I want you to focus on. This is much more important than screen time. There is a cultural revolution afoot in our children, and it's pretty cool. Kelly describes it like this. The culture that probably you and I were raised in was predominantly text. I know we're a little bit digital, but not that much, right? Most of us had a very text-dominated experience. Just think something on paper, right? Our children are almost entirely being raised in a digital culture, which means it's based on coding and algorithms. That alone changes the game completely, because anything written in code and algorithms can be edited by just about anybody. It can be hacked by anybody. It can be revised. It can be remixed. It can be reborn. The editing potential for things in a digital world is really endless and very decentralized. As we see, we pay attention to the bad stuff, right? When things get hacked and et cetera. But try to think about it in a positive light for a second. It makes it possible for more people to be involved in decision making, in writing a rule or a law, maybe, right? It takes away this gatekeeping and this linear process of approvals and opens it up to a bigger dialogue. It's a little bit 60s in flavor. It's got a little bit of 60s to it, The spirit of it, anyway. It will define your children. If your children are younger than mine, under 8 or 9 right now, you may not see it yet. But I promise you, by the time they're teenagers, you will see it. They will wonder why you accept things passed down. They will be amazed when you talk to them about having followed guides and text and rules and laws that someone somewhere wrote and decided were okay. They'll be amazed by that. They'll wonder why on earth you would accept that. Wouldn't you want a say? Wouldn't you want to participate? What was your contribution, right? That's how your children are going to react. That will be their mindset. I think it's beautiful, especially in times like these. I think we're ready for that mentality right now, personally. I watch my son and his friends do this all the time. It's amazing. They find media, they edit the media, they share it with each other. They have close relationships with the creators of the media that they're editing. And they're all sharing ideas and content. There isn't a lot of ownership conversation around it. It's very collaborative. It's mutually inspiring. And it's across age groups, it's across demographics because of technology. It's not isolated geographically at all. And they don't usually care what race you are or where you're from or how much money you have. It's all about the collaboration. It's really extraordinary. I know you see words like this all the time. We see them so much that we sort of lost sense of what they mean, but just look at them in this context for a second, right? These are about affirming things that others have done, sharing it, showing your appreciation for it, making it your own, adding your own commentary to it, right? Building and constructing ideas and truths as a community, right? I think that we falsely have the sense that technology has somehow eroded community, but I think it's the opposite. I think technology is actually liberating community to be what maybe it ought to have been. Okay, last one, interacting. Now, Kelly gives this word because he's thinking about the fullness of interaction that our children are going to have with not just tech, although that's the channel, right? But he's talking about the level of interaction our children are going to have with their environment, with everything around them. And it will be holistic because of technology. It won't be sitting in front of a keyboard typing through this very narrow process that requires a very narrow set of skills. It will be kinesthetic. Technology will liberate the way that our children can communicate with each other and with things, move through data, express ideas. All those children who had to sit in desks, right, had these brilliant ideas, and if only they could move through them, or if only they had the right tools for expressing their vision, imagine what we'd have in the world, right? But we had this one set of ways to do things. And so we basically eliminated probably 70% of inventions, ideas, contributions, because we didn't allow a versatility of expression. But that's over, completely over. Schools are going to resist big time for a million reasons. But trust me, starting with college and then moving down, they will all move to models that rely on AR, VR, and AI. All of them. All of them. Elementary schools will be the last. But colleges are already beginning to do that. So I'm wondering if you saw these themes. This is what I pick up on as I think about these forces and the way that they will shape your children's lives. Decentralized everything. Decentralized money, decentralized decision-making, decentralized creativity, decentralized community. Transparency. Don't you love it that our children's generation will demand transparency? They'll demand openness. It's about time, right? We need a voice for that. We need someone to demand and expect that. Technology will liberate them to do that. Openness, fluidity of interaction, fluidity of use, removing all the obstacles between them and things and them and people. Connectivity. Has a human being ever been more connected than our children can be now? And social. A lot of us, I think, were sort of raised to think that technology would make our children antisocial. I see the opposite. I see the exact opposite manifesting in my own son. He's never been more social, in more versatile ways. Okay, so what do we do with this, right? I have some recommendations for you. This is kind of like your homework. I highly recommend that you start following tech trends. Even if it's not related to your field, I think it's related to your field of parenting. I would start with AI, and I would start as soon as you get home tonight. AI is developing at a breathtaking pace. By tomorrow, there will already be innovations that change the horizon. I'm not saying that you can catch up, right? I'm not saying that if you jump on it, somehow you will magically see the end game. I'm saying that I think you want to see how it's evolving so that you can begin to get your head around it and calibrate and prepare yourself to support your children in a world like we have described with AI. And I think if you wait too long, too much of it will have happened, and you won't have the position of advocacy and guidance. I think it's time to flip this whole judgment cycle, right? With your own parents who apply a lot of pressure, don't they? If you want to be tech forward, I think you've got to start by getting people on board. You've got to help your own family and your friends understand why you're tech forward. And there are great ways to do this. Have a Tupperware party, but make it about, Raspberry Pi and Arduino and build something with wires, or, have an engineering experience, or make a play date tech-centered, right? But invite your friends into the conversation in a fun way and get everybody thinking about what tech can do for your children. Really suggest that you invest in STEM. I say tech, I'm always really referring broadly to STEM, the whole range, science, engineering. Doesn't have to have wires in it necessarily. I would begin investing. I don't care how young your children are, really. The sooner the better. There are tons of camps, lots of summer camps, after-school programs. Schools haven't quite caught up yet, so you'll have a little bit of trouble there. But every year, there are almost double the number of summer camps in STEM, so lots of opportunity to explore those. I would do it now. Get that tech into your house. Bring it in. I mentioned Raspberry Pi. If you don't know what that is, very affordable, very malleable set of tools that you can use to build anything technologically. And they have a fantastic support system online through social media where you can follow what other families are doing and get ideas. Get that stuff into your house. Grab it, embrace it, share it with your child. You be the first one to mention it for a change instead of discovering it through them, right? Make it part of that special time that you have on the weekend. We really need our educational leaders to get better at forecasting, but they need your permission. Industry secret, educational leaders really want to forecast the future, but they think that parents are terrified of technology. And so they don't like to be aggressive about it because they think that parents won't subscribe, right? So while you may think that they're behind the times, they're actually afraid that you won't give them permission. In most cases, that's true. So give them permission. Advocate, campaign. They should be looking into the future with a sober lens. What does it look like and how we can prepare our children? And the answer is, it's not handwriting. Sorry, it's not. Okay, here it is again. I know, climate change. I always end with climate change. But you see how it's interrelated? You've got to start that conversation. If your child was just born, as soon as they're able to converse with you, you got to start that conversation. They're going to inherit big challenges, and they need to be prepared. It's your job to prepare them for that. In that vein, I'm going to share a little video with you. This is a video produced by the United Nations Environmental Program, which is lovely. You should check it out. And they sponsor every year a small set of what they call young champions, who are usually in their 20s, who are inventing solutions, usually related to the environment, blending STEM with environmental solutions. What I love about it is how young they are, 20 is young. Your kids will be 20 tomorrow, right? And I love that they're celebrating this marriage of STEM and solutions to a really intense crisis. So imagine the girl in the video is your child just a few years from now, right?
I'm sitting in a design class and my 90-year-old professor, he was so old, opens a textbook and he's all like, okay guys, today we have to learn about this thing called the Gaia Theory, which is that everything in nature is interconnected. And you're probably going to make decisions as a designer that'll have far-reaching, catastrophic environmental impacts. So yeah, anyway, moving right along. And I was like, whoa, 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 just whoa, 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 what? What do you mean? So I turned to the rest of my class, and I'll never forget this. There's this kid, he says, Layla, I don't know why you're freaking out. It's not like any of these catastrophic environmental impacts will happen in our lifetime, so why should we care? And that changed the entire trajectory of my life, because I was all like, oh, I'm gonna make you care. I live and breathe, therefore I require the Earth's natural resources to survive. I need to figure out how humans work, how the planet works, and how I can work in that space. It's like a giant puzzle for me. And I'd call myself a sustainability provocateur because I'm here to push buttons and provoke, to respectfully challenge the status quo. I develop a lot of educational tools that other people can use, from games to systems interventions. I do things like e-waste autopsies so they can understand the planned obsolescence and the elements that go into making them unsustainable. We started a gang for disruptive change makers. Who doesn't want to join a gang that's going to change the world? Then I also developed the Unschool of Disruptive Design. It's an experimental knowledge lab. We pop up all over the world, all professionals willing to challenge the status quo through creative interventions so that they can help elevate sustainability within their community. I think that the most important thing is that we reimagine the systems, because the systems aren't working, and we know that. We see system failures everywhere through the externalities, from waste through to poverty. We all have the agency to reimagine the way the systems are designed and to contribute to the conversation about how the future can work better for all of us. And frankly, I believe that we're going to be able to figure out how to live in a really beautiful, sustainable and regenerative planet that is better than what we have today. I'm definitely not volunteering for Mars, just FYI. I'm on Spaceship Earth. That's where I'm staying.
I want to thank everyone for being here. Really appreciate you coming out. Good luck. Please reach out if there's anything I can do to help you and support you in your journey in parenting. Any questions? Thank you.